So, do you need to have an important conversation or negotiation with a boss or someone who has more power than you? If so, I want to hear about that in the comments below. Because one of the most common questions I get is whether it's okay to negotiate with a boss or someone who has more power, and if so, how to do it. So, today I'm going to unpack the answer to the question why it is almost always completely fine to negotiate with your boss, but why it can often feel very, very hard to do so. I'm going to offer some tips on how to make it feel easier and how to get you as prepared as possible to get the outcome you want and most certainly deserve. I'm Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School. I'm the founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation and Mediation Clinical Program, and I'm the founder and principal of the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. So here's where I want to start. I want to start with the definition of what negotiation is, because a negotiation is nothing more than a conversation where you have some intention to influence or to persuade the other person. And the reason why I'm starting there is because I want to put something forward to you that is, I am 100% sure true, which is that you are always negotiating with your boss. You are always negotiating with someone who is superior to you in an organization. Now you might be thinking, I don't think so, I'm not sure. Let me tell you why. You're working on a project and you have an idea and you want to share it with your boss. And you want to share it with your boss because you want your boss to think that's a good idea. And then you talk to your boss. You know what you've done? You've negotiated with them. You're working on a team, and one of the team members is someone who's in management. And you think that the way you should move forward on the advertising strategy is to put most of your money into social media. And you bring that idea up in the room. You know what you've done? You've negotiated. So the main thing I want to say here is, unless your job is a Trappist monk where all you do is pray all day and you actually never speak to the friar in charge, then you are already negotiating with your boss. So I think part of the fear or anxiety behind this question is really about negotiating for yourself about something you want specifically that boss or superior to do for you. That question isn't about whether you can negotiate with your boss. It's about whether you can find the place in yourself to have the confidence that actually you can be persuasive and efficacious with that superior. So what sometimes holds us back from that? Well, first, I think, is the fear that they have more power or leverage than you in the negotiation. Now, truth of the matter is that in some domains, they probably do have more power and leverage. For example, they may have more structural power. They could, for example, perhaps even fire you, or they could put you on a really crummy project. It is also the case, though, that if you work for them or with them, it's because you do some things that they want you to do. So when it comes to power in any kind of a negotiation, there are different sources of power. And if you're working for a superior, you are presumably doing some things that that superior wants you to do. And then, of course, they are doing some things that you want them to do. Whenever you go into a negotiation, part of what makes it a negotiation is that each of you wants the other to do or not do something. And because of that, it actually means you have some power in the negotiation. Related to this, I talked about structural power, but there's another kind of power that really matters in negotiation, and I call that interpersonal power. So what is interpersonal power, and why does it matter, especially when you're negotiating upward? Interpersonal power is your capacity to be a good listener. Interpersonal power is your capacity to build trust. Interpersonal power is your ability to listen past the positions to underlying interests, and by doing that, to expand the size of the negotiation pie for yourself and for your boss. And when you can use that interpersonal power in a negotiation and demonstrate to your boss why the thing you want also advances their interests. Not only do you get the thing you want, you get some other things. You earn their respect. They may actually start to see you as being good in other managerial roles. Let me give you an example from my own life. Years ago, when I got promoted from a lecturer to an assistant clinical professor, I had an opportunity to negotiate with the then dean of the law school. So I thought about a whole bunch of things that I wanted, and one of the things was I was hoping to have a somewhat bigger office, because as in most organizations, the higher the status you are, the bigger the office you get. And part of the reason why, frankly, I wanted the bigger office is because I felt like it was becoming of my role. And another part, frankly, was that meeting rooms at Harvard Law School were in short supply at the time, and having an office big enough so that I could have a meeting would be meaningful. So I go into this negotiation, and I am promptly told no, because there is no space. And so I said, I see. So the concern is space constraints. Absolutely. Are there other issues? No, it's just space. Great. So I understood what the interest was. What I then did is, within my department, I knew that there was an office that was hardly ever used. It was used by a visitor from another school who came about once a year. That office was next to another small office of somebody who was going to be leaving the school. I had my idea. I went back to the dean and I said, hey, I actually know that there are going to be 2 offices that are going to be mostly empty. Would it be possible to offer my current small office to the person who only comes once a semester, freeing up the 2 offices that were next to each other, and then have the wall knocked down to create one big office? I got a yes. Well, what's interesting about that, right, to the degree this boss was actually being honest, it wasn't about cost considerations, it wasn't about status, it was about space. I solved the space problem. And in the process, I got the bigger office. Oh, and one more thing I want to add, and it relates to negotiation power, is I was also able to demonstrate that the size of the office that I was going to get was equivalent to the size of other faculty offices. So what I did there was use criteria, specifically a norm of fairness, in a way to suggest to this dean that giving me this office would be a way that she could be treating me fairly. So what I'm really doing here is harnessing different sources of power. I'm harnessing the ability to move from positions to interests. I'm harnessing the power of preparation. I'm harnessing the power of creativity, and I'm harnessing the power of criteria. All of those things come together in a way that not only make me successful for getting what I want, but frankly also earn the respect of my boss. Here's the last thing I want to say about negotiating with a superior or a boss, because I've given you a lot of advice with respect to rethinking sources of power, with reminding you that you're always negotiating with a boss all the time, even if it's not on behalf of yourself. But there's another negotiation you need to have before you start the negotiation with your boss, and that's your negotiation with yourself. Because from the coaching that I have done, I would say the number one reason why people fail to negotiate on behalf of themselves with a boss or a superior is because they're lacking the sense of self-confidence and groundedness in the legitimacy of what it is they are asking for. Folks who are braggadocious, folks who just go barreling into the office of their boss, they're not watching this video. If you're watching this video at this point, it's because this is really hard for you. And so that means really owning for yourself that you have the worth and the value and the legitimacy to do this. And if you find yourself getting stuck in that, let me offer a few tips. First, talk it through with a friend, maybe a family member, maybe a negotiation coach, right? That's what I do with a lot of people. Secondly, do some practice. Again, maybe with a negotiation coach. Third, before you go into that negotiation, imagine yourself in a different role. Imagine that because you are so fearful, so not good, so unsure about whether you'll succeed here, that you have hired a lawyer to represent you in that negotiation. Now feel the confidence, embody the confidence of that lawyer, and now go into the space. I know that sounds like a Jedi mind trick, but it kind of is. So, to review, can you negotiate with a superior boss? You do it all the time. Oh, but they have more power than me? In some ways, and you also have power too. The power of preparation, the power of trustworthiness, the power of creativity, the power of understanding interests. Still feeling unsure? Do that negotiation with yourself. Still feeling unsure? Remember to have that negotiation with yourself. That negotiation that says, you deserve this, you can do it, you are grounded, you have the confidence. Give me a vote of confidence and watch this next video, The Art of Persuasion for Professional Success. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and ring the bell. Okay, it's not difficult to keep watching. Click, click.